Eleanor Hayes had worked in fine homes for 30 years. She'd polished silver for senators, arranged flowers for socialites, and kept secrets for families whose names appeared in history books. At 58, she thought she'd seen everything wealthy people could do. But today, standing in the marble hallway of the Preston mansion, she realized she was about to witness something that troubled her deeply. "You understand what I need you to do?" Jonathan Preston asked, his voice low. He was a handsome man in his late 30s, heir to a banking fortune that stretched back 4 generations. Usually confident, today he seemed nervous. Eleanor folded her hands carefully. "Mr. Preston, I'm not sure this is wise. I need to know if she really loves me," Jonathan said. "Not my money, not my family name. Me. And I need to know if she's ready for real family responsibility." On the couch in the living room sat 3 babies, barely 6 months old. Triplets, 2 boys and a girl, dressed in soft blue, red, and green. They belonged to Jonathan's cousin Sarah, who was recovering from surgery and had asked him to watch them for the afternoon. Jonathan's plan was simple, and to Eleanor, deeply flawed. He would hide in his study. His girlfriend Vanessa would arrive, expecting a romantic lunch. Instead, she'd find the babies and a note claiming they were Jonathan's children from a previous relationship, and that he needed to see how she'd react before he could propose. "This isn't a test of love," Eleanor said quietly. "This is a test of trust. And you're the one breaking it." Jonathan ran his hand through his hair. "I've been burned before, Eleanor. Women who wanted the Preston name, the Preston money. Vanessa seems different. But how can I be sure? By being honest with her, by taking the risk that real love requires." Eleanor had been married for 35 years before her husband passed. She knew something about love. "What you're planning, it's manipulation, Mr. Preston." "It's not fair to her." "I just need to see," he said stubbornly. "Please, Eleanor, follow the plan. Give her the note when she arrives." Eleanor wanted to refuse, but she'd worked for the Preston family since Jonathan was a boy. She'd watched him grow up lonely in this big house, watched his parents prioritize business over family, watched him learn that money could buy almost anything except genuine connection. "All right," she said finally. "But I want you to know I think you're making a mistake." Vanessa Chen arrived precisely at noon, as she always did. She was a lovely woman of 35, a graphic designer who'd met Jonathan at a charity art auction 6 months earlier. Eleanor had seen them together often. The way Vanessa laughed at his jokes, the way she listened when he talked about his day, the way her face lit up when he walked into a room. It seemed genuine. But Eleanor had learned that seeming and being were often different things. "Hello, Eleanor," Vanessa said warmly, handing over her coat. "Is Jonathan ready for lunch?" "I brought those pastries he loves from the bakery downtown." Eleanor's heart sank. The pastries were from a small neighborhood bakery, not some expensive patisserie. Vanessa had driven across town to get them because she knew they were Jonathan's favorite. "Miss Chen, Mr. Preston has been delayed. But there's something he needs you to see in the living room." Vanessa's smile faded as she entered the living room and saw the 3 babies. The little girl was fussing, and one of the boys was starting to cry. They looked tired and overwhelmed. Eleanor handed Vanessa the note. She watched the color drain from the younger woman's face as she read, "Vanessa, these are my children. I should have told you sooner. I need to know if you can handle this reality before we go any further. I'm watching to see what you'll do." "AJ, his children?" Vanessa whispered. Her hand trembled slightly. Eleanor said nothing, hating every moment of this deception. Vanessa stood frozen for a long moment, the note crumpling in her hand. Eleanor could see emotions flickering across her face: shock, hurt, confusion. But then something else emerged. Vanessa's shoulders straightened, and she moved toward the crying babies. "Okay," she said softly, more to herself than to Eleanor. "Okay." She picked up the fussing girl first, bouncing her gently. "Hey there, sweetheart. It's all right. You're okay." The baby quieted slightly, and Vanessa reached for one of the boys with her other arm. "Miss Chen," Eleanor started. "You don't have to." "Could you help me?" Vanessa asked, her voice steady despite the tears Eleanor could see forming. "I think they might be hungry or need changing. I don't have much experience with babies, but they're Jonathan's, so we'll figure it out." Eleanor felt something crack in her chest. This woman, who'd just been ambushed with life-changing information, wasn't running, wasn't angry. She was trying to care for children she believed were her boyfriends, despite the hurt and betrayal she must be feeling. "I'll get bottles," Eleanor heard herself say. For the next hour, Eleanor watched Vanessa transform. The young woman was clearly out of her depth as she held the babies awkwardly at first, wasn't sure about diaper changing technique, and looked near tears when all three started crying at once. But she didn't give up. She sang to them, silly songs that Eleanor suspected she was making up on the spot. She walked the floor with them, bouncing and swaying. When Eleanor brought bottles, Vanessa fed them carefully, learning as she went. "I can't believe he didn't tell me," Vanessa said quietly as she fed the little girl. "We talked about everything. I thought we were building something based on honesty." Eleanor set down the burp cloth she'd been folding. "Miss Chena." "But I understand why he was scared," Vanessa continued, her voice thick with emotion. "He's been hurt before. And kids. That's a big thing to bring up. Maybe he was waiting for the right moment." She looked down at the baby in her arms. "She has his eyes, doesn't she? The shape of them." That did it. Eleanor couldn't let this continue. "Miss Chen, I need to tell you something." But before she could speak, Vanessa continued, "I love him, Eleanor. I really do. Not because of this house or his family name. I love him because he's kind and because he tries so hard to be better than his upbringing. Because he volunteers at the food bank on Saturdays without telling anyone. Because he remembers my mother's birthday and sends her flowers." She shifted the baby to her shoulder, patting her back gently. "If these are his children, then they're part of the package. It's overwhelming. And yes, I'm scared. I don't know how to be a mother, especially to 3 babies at once. But I'm willing to learn. For him, and for them." "Miss Chen, these children aren't." The study door opened. Jonathan stood there, his face pale. Eleanor realized he must have been listening through the intercom system. Vanessa looked up and saw him. Instead of the warm greeting Eleanor usually witnessed, Vanessa's expression was guarded, hurt still visible in her eyes despite her brave words. "Jonathan," she said quietly. "Eleanor was just about to help me with lunch for the babies." "Vanessa." "Yeah." Jonathan stepped forward. "I need to tell you something." "Is it about their mother? Are you still in contact with her?" "I need to understand the whole situation." "They're not mine." The words came out in a rush. Vanessa blinked. "What?" "They're my cousin Sarah's." This was a test. Jonathan's voice cracked. "I wanted to see if you'd stay. If you really loved me. I've been burned before by women who wanted the Preston name, and I needed to know her." He stopped because Vanessa had stood up, still holding the baby. Her face had gone very still. "You tested me," she said flatly. "Vanessa, please see. You created an elaborate lie, used these innocent children as props, and tested me." Her voice was shaking now, but not with tears. "With anger. Instead of trusting me, instead of talking to me about your fears, you manipulated me." Eleanor watched Jonathan's face crumble as he realized what he'd done. "You're right," he said. "You're absolutely right. I was scared and stupid, and I need to leave." Vanessa carefully handed the baby to Eleanor. "Thank you for your kindness today. Please give the children back to their mother with my best wishes." She walked toward the door. "Vanessa, wait." "Please." Jonathan reached for her arm, but she stepped back. "You know what hurts most?" Vanessa's eyes were bright with tears now. "I proved I loved you. I was willing to take on 3 children I thought were yours, to build a life with you anyway. And you proved that you don't trust me, that you don't trust love, that you think relationships are about tests and manipulation rather than honesty and partnership. I made a terrible mistake here." "Yes, you did." Vanessa grabbed her coat from the hall. "I need time to think about whether we can come back from this." "Don't call me. I'll reach out if and when I'm ready to talk." The door closed behind her with a quiet finality that was somehow louder than a slam. The mansion felt very quiet after Vanessa left. Jonathan stood in the hallway, looking lost. Eleanor finished settling the babies, then found him still standing in the same spot. 20 minutes later. "Mr. Preston," she said gently, "I destroyed it, didn't I? The best thing that ever happened to me. And I destroyed it." Eleanor chose her words carefully. "You made a choice based on fear rather than trust. You let your past hurts dictate your present actions." She was perfect, Eleanor. She was willing to take on 3 children she thought were mine. She didn't run. She didn't calculate the cost. She just loved me anyway. She did. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Jonathan looked at her. She said not to call. She said to give her time. There's a difference. Eleanor had lived long enough to understand heartbreak and healing. "But Mr. Preston, if she does give you another chance, you need to be worthy of it. You need to learn to trust, to be honest even when it's frightening, to choose vulnerability over protection." "I don't know if I know how." "Then learn. Get help if you need it. A therapist, a counselor. Face the reasons you're so afraid of being hurt that you'd hurt someone else first." Eleanor's voice was firm but kind. "Real love is a risk. It always has been. Your parents may have taught you that everything can be controlled, but they were wrong about that." Jonathan nodded slowly. "Will you help me?" "Help you how?" "Help me become someone who deserves a second chance." 3 weeks passed. Eleanor watched Jonathan change. He found a therapist and started going twice a week. He called his cousin Sarah and apologized for using her children in his scheme. He volunteered extra hours at the food bank, not for show, but because it made him feel connected to something real. He didn't contact Vanessa, though Eleanor knew it was killing him. Instead, he worked on himself. One evening, Eleanor found him in the living room, looking at a small box. "It's a ring," he said quietly. "I bought it 2 weeks before that disastrous day. I was going to propose properly. No tests, no games, just love. And then I got scared." "Fear makes us do foolish things," Eleanor said. "If she gives me another chance here, and that's a big if, I want to be different. I want to be the man she deserves." The doorbell rang. Eleanor went to answer it, and her heart lifted when she saw Vanessa standing there. "Hello, Eleanor," Vanessa said. She looked different, stronger somehow, but also tired. "Is he home?" "He is. Would you like to come in?" Vanessa nodded. Eleanor brought her to the living room, where Jonathan stood up so fast he nearly knocked over a lamp. "Vanessa." "Jonathan." She stayed near the doorway. "I've spent 3 weeks thinking about us, about trust, about whether people can change. I've been in therapy," he said quickly, "twice a week, working on why I'm so afraid of being vulnerable, why I test people instead of trusting them. I'm not fixed. I don't think you ever fully fix that kind of damage here, but I'm trying to be better." Vanessa nodded slowly. "I appreciate that. I really do." "I'm so sorry," Jonathan said, his voice breaking. "What I did was cruel and manipulative, and you didn't deserve it. You deserved honesty and trust, and I gave you a test instead." "You did." Vanessa took a breath. "But I've realized something too. I'm not perfect either. I could have left, but I stayed and talked to you tonight because I think what we have is worth fighting for. Not the mansion or the money or any of that, but the man who volunteers at food banks and remembers my mother's birthday. The man who cries at sad movies and talks about wanting to be better than his parents were. I want to be that man for real," Jonathan said. "Not just the good parts when it's easy, but the hard parts too. The vulnerable, scared, messy parts. That's what I need," Vanessa said softly. "I need all of you, including the scared parts. But I need honesty. I need trust. I can't build a life with someone who's always testing me." "Never again," Jonathan promised. "No more tests. Just truth, even when it's hard." They stood there for a moment, and then Vanessa crossed the room and took his hand. Eleanor quietly left them alone, her heart lighter than it had been in weeks. 6 months later, Eleanor helped arrange flowers for an intimate wedding in the mansion's garden. Vanessa and Jonathan exchanged vows they'd written themselves, promising honesty, trust, and the courage to be vulnerable. Jonathan's cousin Sarah was there with her triplets, now toddling around and getting into everything. Vanessa spent time playing with them, making them laugh, no trace of resentment for the role they'd unwittingly played. At the reception, Vanessa found Eleanor arranging desserts. "Thank you," Vanessa said simply. "I didn't do anything, Mrs. Preston." "You did. You wanted to stop the test that day. I could see it in your eyes. You cared about honesty more than your job security." Eleanor smiled. "Some things matter more than a paycheck." "You taught me something that day too," Vanessa said. "You showed me that kindness and integrity exist even in complicated situations. That's a lesson I'll carry forever." Later, Eleanor watched the couple dance, Jonathan holding Vanessa like she was precious and rare. The young man who'd been so afraid of being hurt had learned to trust. The young woman who'd been deceived had found the strength to forgive. It wasn't a perfect story. They'd both carry scars from that day. But sometimes, Eleanor thought, the broken places were where the real growth happened, where people learned what really mattered. As she packed up her things at the end of the evening, Jonathan approached her. "Eleanor, I never properly thanked you." "For what, Mr. Preston?" "For telling me I was making a mistake, for being honest even when I didn't want to hear it, for helping me see that real love requires real trust." Eleanor patted his arm. "That's what people who care about you do, Mr. Preston. They tell you the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. I'm grateful I had someone like you to help me learn that lesson." As Eleanor drove home that night, she thought about the 3 babies who'd been used as props in a test, who'd instead become teachers in a lesson about trust. She thought about Vanessa's courage and Jonathan's growth. She thought about the long road from fear to faith, from manipulation to honesty. Sometimes the hardest tests weren't the ones we gave others, Eleanor reflected. They were the ones we gave ourselves. So the test of being vulnerable, of risking hurt, of choosing trust even when we'd been burned before. And sometimes, if we were very lucky, we found people who were worth taking that risk. People who loved us not despite our fears, but through them. That was the real test. And it was one that only honesty could help us pass.